Ready to go live. Well, hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. So for those of you who know, this channel is all about awakening. And we're also streaming live in my Facebook group, which is Accelerate Your Life 2021. But on this channel, I am intent on talking about life, business, love, relationships, all in the context of awakening. And I want this channel to be a space where we explore consciousness, awareness, the law of attraction, understanding energy, quantum reality, and the laws of the universe. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Lyndsay King, and my mission is to inspire millions of people all over the world to create a ripple effect of positivity and to support the collective consciousness through this mass awakening. So I ask you, if you like the content, the topic of this channel, please support me energetically. It's like an exchange when you send us your love by liking, subscribing, commenting, and of course, sharing this content. You know, it helps us, it helps me, it helps us, and all of the amazing awakened souls that I work with to come up with more content that is relevant to you on your journey. So today I'm really excited to welcome a guest. It's someone that I hold near and dear to my heart. I almost consider her to be my auntie, probably because she was introduced to me by a friend of mine as Auntie Wendy. So I won't embarrass you anymore, Wendy. I'm going to bring you on and just tell people a bit about you. I know I ask you to send me a bit of a bio. So Wendy Panther is an ex-nurse. She's been in the nursing profession for over 40 years. And as we know, those of us who are the awakening souls, all of us healers find ourselves in a place of helping people at some point in our lives. So Wendy has been a holistic practitioner and an alternative therapist since through labor under hypnosis in 1990. You know, this is a person who is always at the forefront of energetic development and of, you know, our, what I would call our human evolution, right? Our rise in consciousness. She's also an NLP master practitioner and a trainer, and she is an EAM practitioner and trained as an EAM mentor, spiritual channeler, which kind of lights up my world. And she does a lot of really down-to-earth spirituality. She likes to mix woo-woo with her Yorkshire grit. That's right. Auntie Wendy's from England, and she also specializes in shadow alchemy. So shadow alchemy for Wendy is what kind of brought together all of her skills. And I'm going to stop reading that now because I think we're ready to start chatting. Today, we're hosting an episode on shadow work. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on with me today.
You're welcome.
And I just want to ask you to I'd love to have you just share with our audience a bit about yourself, your story, what this awakening means to you.
It's like, how long have we got? My awakening actually started, I would say, well, it started when I was introduced to holistic therapy in 1990 by who was my nurse tutor at the time. I was working as a nurse tutor and she was my senior tutor. And from then on, it triggered an interest in alternatives from that moment onwards. So as I mentioned, I took Linda through labour under hypnosis and helped deliver Harriet, who we were just talking about. So I was present at her birth at that point. And then after that, it was a case of, I always found the alternative place to do things. So it's like my Cert Ed wasn't standard educational. It was with a man who was very much onto student-centered learning. And so that kind of began the process that wherever I go, it is what I'd call on the edge rather than mainstream. And that's where I've kind of lived my life. But lived my life, I call it secretly, in that it did manage to get me into a Qigong cult. But having said that, I practiced Qigong for over 5 years and was a practitioner, and actually one of my guides is a Qigong master. So I know when I'm connected to that particular one and that I start doing and practicing the Qigong. And then following that, I came back into nursing and into the elderly care sector. And I shut down for a while. You can imagine the kind of trauma having been that comes from being, and I call it a cult, but it was more or less a one-on-one cult where the actual leader and trainer of the Qigong organization that I was in, I was her kind of second in command. So it was kind of high up in that organization. And during that period of doing the Qigong was when I did have a lot of spiritual awakening, but linked with a lot of shadow, because of the way that she was practicing it, and because I was obviously in shadow at that time. So I would see auras, I would see things that were happening for people, I'd do meditations where when we came back round, we'd all say where we'd been and it was all the same, that type of thing. And then once I came out of it, I literally shut it down for about 15 years, because it was the pain that went along with it, and to be honest, the ridicule that went along with it, and the shame. If I'm honest, shame is what is the biggie that stops you. So having done that, then it was when I started doing the energy alignment method that I was doing a clearance one day, and then started doing the aligning. And as I'm aligning, it was linking into my own magnificence. That was the word that was coming through. I allow magnificence into my energy. And then it was that I just continued talking about magnificence on and on and on and wouldn't stop. And then I just looked, and there was Linda and Harriet in the office, and I kind of went, I'm not me. And I went, I know. And that's been happening ever since. But now it doesn't come through as different voices. I can just kind of link in, and I know that I can connect and choose to be as and when I want to be connected. It was interesting because other people used to find that they'd get their guides coming through and they couldn't switch them off. I've always been able to switch them off, and I'm always kind of alert and knowing what's coming through. You know how some people channel and then they say they don't know what's happening while they're channeling? That's not me. I can hear it. I receive the wisdom at the same time as everybody else.
Yeah, Wendy, you're touching on some very critical points, because I'm just want to dig into this awakening bit a little bit, because I think a lot of people, especially right now, as a collective consciousness, as humanity, and evolving humanity, just in case anyone who's listening doesn't know that's what's happening right now. As we start to awaken by the millions every day, a lot of people start to recognize they have certain gifts, certain abilities. They might start to hear what we call our guides, our guidance, that comes from another dimension, another source, another power. Maybe it's your higher self power, divine source energy. Or many people start to see visions or understand things on a much deeper energetic level. And my question to you is, were you always in tune with these abilities, or did they start to heighten? Because I find that a lot of people keep these experiences very private for fear of being rejected, or, we all have this deep fear of persecution, which we can talk about in a little bit. That's important to clear when we do this kind of work.
When I first left the Qigong, I went to a spiritual circle, like in a thing for a spiritualist church. And that's actually when I very first channeled. But I didn't particularly share it with anybody else. And then I got married to the husband that I've now separated from in this last 18 months, just pre-lockdown. And he was incredibly down to earth, practical. All of this was just utter woo. Don't be stupid. It's all right for you to do as a little bit of a hobby, but don't be stupid. It's not what you want to do as a living. It's not what you want to. How can you make? And so it was that was part and parcel of what contributed to our separation. And interestingly, at the time, at the very beginning, I was learning to read tarot cards. I was learning to do all sorts, and literally, I shut it down. And I mean, I shut it down to please the person that I was married to. So to become the person that they expected me to be, he would never say that. He would always allow me to do what I wanted to do, whatever, but it was just the kind of hidden messages. And when you're empathetic, which is what I am, and when you kind of live in other people's energies, which I've learned to come out of at certain points, then it was interesting. When I very first split up from him, I was at the point of, and they go, it's kind of, well, what do you want, Wendy? And it was so unusual for me to even think of going, what do I want? That I didn't know what. I couldn't answer that. I could not at first answer that question. I can now.
Oh, good. That's what we want. We want
more anyway. I've got a certain thing of it. I want to be me, I think is the line. I want
free
to be me.
Free to become the person we're meant to become. Yeah. We're going to get into that, becoming you, the great effing I am, in a bit. Wendy, I would love for you to tell us a bit more about shadow work, because, you know, I get so many questions about shadow work and the work that I do. I work with awakening souls and people who are like us, you know, awakening to their purpose, awakening to their mission, being called forward to have a better relationship with their guides, being called forward to, you know, live into their purpose. And, you know, a question that I get, I'm free to be me as my mantra, Julie. That's cool. A question that I get a lot of the time is, you know, Lynn, do you work with shadow work? What is shadow work? And it's not like this big unknown thing. The way I look at it actually is that it's an essential part of the awakening process, because it is related to the ego death. It's related to becoming the person you're meant to become. It's related to facing who you truly are so that you can come into one perfectly imperfect, whole and complete being, right? The full I am. That's my little description, but I would love to hear from you, because I know that what you've moved into is shadow alchemy, which, you know, anything with alchemy is so fun.
Yeah, well, and it's a step on from shadow work, because when we do, I first did shadow work. Now then, I'm going back. I went to a 5-day retreat in Switzerland to do it. And so we spent literally 5 days just exploring all things shadow. And so then when I came back, it was looking up, researching it, doing all the Robert Brown stuff, the Carl Jung and all of that, and the archetypes that go with it. But the shadow alchemy is based around four particular columns of being, and underneath each of these archetypes, you can fit practically every other archetype into one of them that will be influenced in it. If it's in shadow, it will be linked to one of these archetypes. And the 4 archetypes that I relate it to is and I call it it's a shadow archetype, it's a shadow consciousness. And we're massively in shadow consciousness at the moment with everything that's rising. But the beauty is we can see it now, whereas previously everybody's was kind of pushed down, repressed, hidden. Now it's coming up, and I have a very strong belief that things come up when they're ready to be sorted. So when we talk about all of the shit that's coming up in the world right now, it's because it's ready to be sorted.
It's like the world's shadow is coming up. Yeah, you know, and that's like that's a wonderful topic. But let's just help people understand, what is the shadow?
So the shadow itself it's lots of unconscious, repressed thoughts, feelings that were often learnt in childhood or even in past lives, depending on what your philosophy is. I certainly know that I've carried some of my shadow through from past lives. And when we talk about, I'll just give you a very brief description of the 4 columns. In our business we call them the Council of Lies and the Council of Truth, and there's a representative on each one that links with the other. So the Council of Lies are your victim consciousness, your child consciousness, and this is not inner child. This is like being childish, resentful, angry, petulant child. It is the then there is the opposite to child, sovereign warrior. Saboteur consciousness,
Saboteur.
And then the final one, which is prostitute consciousness, which is the one that can cause a lot of people a kind of, what? Prostitute? And essentially, it's what will you prostitute yourself for? What will you give up your soul for? What will you give up your life for? What will you do just to be pleasing, just to please people and to be part of a group? So it's the kind of thing, and I'm going to trigger a few here, and I promise I will. It's the kind of thing that if you wear a mask just because other people do, to be accepted as part of the tribe, at that point, you are in prostitute consciousness, especially if you don't believe in wearing them.
It's when you are compromising your value and your worth for other people, when you are betraying yourself to make other people happy, and you're basically lowering your own vibration when we get to a vibrational standpoint.
Yeah,
exactly. So when we're looking at shadow work in the context of awakening, one thing that I feel very passionate about is that, rising in frequency and rising in energy and going through an awakening, stepping into a more spiritually based life or soul-led life, heart-led life. It doesn't mean that we walk around being fake positive all the time, right? Wendy, we know that.
Oh, no, not at all. No, not at all. And shadow work.
There's just as much of a shadow as there is goodness, and we've got to be all of it, right? We've got to own all of those quirks, all of those fears, all of those things that are inside. And what Wendy does, and what I love about what you do, is that it's not just about understanding it with the mind. It's about transmuting that energy, alchemizing the energy of the shadow into your power. Because the whole game of awakening is finding your way back to your truth, to your purpose, to your higher self, your soul's calling. So we're half human, right? Part human and part energy, part soul. The soul,
total energy. And the human is the energy as well. It's just a different energy, and we are all literally just
energy, right? Because we're here having a human experience. So it's like we want to remind ourselves who we are and what our infinite potential and abilities are. And sorry to break it to everyone who's watching, but shadow work is an essential part of the ascension. Essential part of the ascension.
Yeah.
So, do you want to maybe just talk about how we alchemize shadow into power?
And that's the beauty of what I bring everything else into that I've ever done. Because when we talk, so we take the victim from victim consciousness into warrior consciousness. We take the prostitute from prostitute consciousness into the lover consciousness. And the lover consciousness, I describe it as loving yourself first. And I've always said it, you first fill up your own cup, and when your own cup is overflowing, the love can just flow easily. And so that's what lover consciousness is, but you set the standards. So the lover consciousness sets the standard. Then along comes the warrior consciousness to maintain those standards. So it helps you to maintain those standards, and it will at times test you in doing things that are uncomfortable, like saying that magic word, no. Because so many of us find it so difficult to say no. And
no, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. That's not right for me. And someone's like, what do you mean no? You've been saying yes all your life. Oh, well, now I say no. And they'll get over it. Exactly.
And they do. And they will respect you for it, which is the fascinating part, that in actual fact, the number, and especially the number of spiritual people that are in victim consciousness because they're wanting to save others. There's only one person that you're on this planet to save.
That's right.
And that's yourself.
That's right.
And when you save yourself, you are in a position then to assist others who choose to be saved and are looking for the assistance in doing so. It's not that you impose it on them, it's that you are there and ready and waiting for them, that when someone asks, you go, I'm here to help. So it's kind of, I always think very first off when I was doing, and people will only awaken when they are ready to be awakened. And I find it very insulting to people's life path when people call them sheeple and whatever that they do when people are not awakened. Do you get my meaning? Because none of us have walked in that other person's shoes. None of us know what their soul contract is. None of us know what we are meant to be doing. None of us know. So when people start getting upset about the notion that all these people, that, you know, the kind of, and I go, quote, conspiracy theories, because none of us know truly how many are conspiracy and how many are going to come true. But when it becomes, when you are demeaning someone else at some level inside you, you are demeaning yourself. Because that is what shadow consciousness is about. That is about the world reflecting back your own consciousness.
You know what? I am so glad you brought that up. And I think, like, as we're going to start to wrap up, this is such a critical and important point right now. Because, guys, you know, and Wendy, let me know what you think about this statement, because I'm still formulating it into words myself. As we move through this ascension on Earth, and as we see more and more people rising in consciousness, taking personal responsibility, taking back their power, rising in awareness, and starting to go through their version of awakening, you know, we're going to find that, you know, we don't agree with everyone. Yes. Not everyone is on the same path. We're not all here on the same mission. There are some people who are here as light workers, as way showers on a spiritual mission like us, to help ascend, to help awakening, to help heal people. There are people who are here to do other things on this planet, right? Yeah. And when we stand in a place of judgment, we stand in a place of divide. Yes. When we stand in a place of compassion and love and understanding, we're able to stand in a place of wholeness and completeness within ourselves. So it's a little complex to explain quickly, but this is what shadow work is all about, is that you see and judge is really the judgment that you hold yourself to. And I love that you brought up the judgment of sheep. Yeah. And the judgment of all the others. It's like everyone else and not me. Yes. And that's the time to pick the mirror up, folks, and go, oh, yes, it is me. Because and it's the saboteur consciousness, by the way, is the judgment is part of it. So when I go, it comes under each one of the 4 columns. It's saboteur consciousness that is the judge and jury. Yeah, that's so cool. I can't wait to see you. I'll see you in September. I can't wait either. I know. So we have. I can feel the energy now. So it's like when we get together, we'll have to transmute a little before we meet. We'll blow up. Okay. So how can people get in touch with you? And do you have anything coming up, or how do you like to work with people if they're interested in speaking to you more about shadow alchemy and understanding their own personal shadow work in their life? Right. Well, we have. I say we because I am a twin, and it's me and my twin sister that work together. And we have a Facebook page called "Becoming You: The Great Effing I Am," and it's F **ING. Anybody that's putting it in, and on there is lots of information around the shadow work. There's lots of information about the different archetypes. There's lots of information about how you work, and it's a direct way to get in touch with myself or Linda. You can be able to direct messages, do whatever from that particular point. Guys, you can find me on Facebook as Wendy Panther. I don't think there's that many Wendy Panthers about. So you've got the page, you've got the image, you can see what I look like. All right, I just put your name in and your name is also in the description of both of these videos. So we're streaming live to the YouTube channel under Lyndsay King and Awakening, but we're also streaming live into Accelerate Your Life 2021. And guys, you know, if you are interested in joining a community about shadow work and learning more about yourself, your dark side, accepting your darkness, okay? It's okay. And there's a difference and the dark has got a far worse reputation than it deserves. That's right. A lot of it is because we've repressed it, we've hidden it, because within the dark and within the shadow is also there's gold in that shadow as well as the dark, folks. There's the good stuff that you've repressed. That's that as you were a child and you were expressing and blossoming who you were, and then people have gone, oh no, stop that, and so you take it on yourself to dim your light. Well, It's time to
now's the
shine
time to
that
start
light.
shining. Yeah.
Oh, makes me feel a little bit of a wave in my solar plexus.
Again.
Because it's really about just coming into completeness, accepting, all of the things that were considered to be flaws as part of your gifts. So you can join Wendy's Facebook community, Becoming You with a full stop, the great effing I am. And it's F asterisk, 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 ING, because we're not allowed to curse on Facebook. I am. You will find it. It's Wendy Panther. I put it in the comments. If you have any questions, please send us a message. Let us know. You can comment in the comments and ask for contact. We'll put it in there again. But Wendy, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this topic. I'm sure we're going to do it again. We have loads to talk about.
Happy to.
All right.
Happy to. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an absolute joy.
It's been a joy. It's been a great way to kick off the day. So I'll catch up with you afterward. And thank you so much. So guys, I just want to, encourage you to share in the comments. Definitely like these videos if they resonate with you. If you want to hear more on, any variety of topics as it relates to your awakening, to your soul path journey, I'm more than happy to go to bring as much information as I can to you. So please like, subscribe, comment, share, send me your love, and I'll look forward to speaking to you soon. Have a wonderful and blessed day, evening, and afternoon.